So, good evening, guys. Just gonna start with. I know it's after 5. Everyone wants to go home, so I keep it very practical bit. Not much of theory in terms of what design thinking is and what who I am. So I'll start with me. My name is Melvin. I've been in the innovation and transformation space throughout my career. I studied innovation as well, BSc in innovation and transformation. What I specialize and do now is help companies take ideas to market. That is not only startups. We work with a lot of corporates. We because corporates have ideas as well, right? But when you say an idea, it's usually thought of only a startup. So we work with corporate, we work with Yardley, Dialog, Sunshine, and we also work with a lot of legacy businesses. Businesses that were set up 20, 30 years ago, but they are transformed into the new age. So we help and guide them take that. So how we do this is we talk about this theory called design thinking. Hi, anyone familiar with design thinking? First time hearing it or heard it somewhere, seen it somewhere? No? So we'll start with what design is, right? So the reason when I spoke to Dr. Adnan as well, purpose of this is not about me talking theory. It's more about translating something that I know as a methodology which I practice to you guys as well. And I want to understand you all a bit more so that this can make a lot more sense for you than it being a theory that you all see and you don't take, right? So that's about me. What fascinates me is I like bridging idea and the market. I believe personally, I don't think from academic perspective, but I think if any idea needs to create value in the market, when you create value is when you make money. You don't try to do the other. Your goal is to make money. That usually lets you down because you're not creating value. When you create value in the market, that ensures your money is constantly. You have heard of big play, right? Did big play create value or make money? Created value, right? And whenever I talk about big play, when I do these events, they all tell me they copy Google. Yes, Zulfa did to the idea that was already there. But to contextualize it to our market is very tough. If you look at Uber's market in the States, it's a bit more of an educated market. Even the cabbies there knew a sense of English, they understood digital. But when Zulfa started, the maturity of our market was very ongoing. We had a team of 200 people as call center minister. This is just to help the driver navigate through problems or connectivity, or the driver to onboard on the. And for me, that was all design. Two people in the order. One was the passenger and one was the driver. So the entire value creation is around those two. Which is what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about more of the people. And why I'm here today is to challenge what you all have as business thinking, or all of you are like most of you are from engineering backgrounds, business backgrounds, engineering, medical background. So I have funnily enough, I have an example in the medtech space also that I can share. You guys, all medical background. You have a brother. Very familiar face. You all are from which faculty? I sense. Your fingers, science, computing, everyone's from this. It's a good mix. I always like so. IQ is also, I have an engineering team, a marketing team, and a study team. So most of the time I'm talking to people very different. But the principle stays the same. We try to solve for the person here and not the feature behind. Not the, and it's like in medicine, right? You know your medicine, but you are still solving the patient need. It's the same logic that we take in the business. Whereas in business, sometimes it gets stuck. You don't look at the business as that, you try to look at business only from a monetary perspective. Right? So today's entire session is about you. Understanding what you need in the market is where I usually start with any of my audience. There are pain points you are going, right? Frustration, etc. A simple frustration that I had when I interviewed is the security here directed me somewhere. So he didn't know the name of the building. So that's again, a pain point, right? I had to read Read outcast. But I made the mistake. I told him zone B as well. Zone help zone. So he got confused. How am I saying help zone and open house at the same time? But that's a frustration. So what if there was a attack or something that guides me to the location? But that's something a student can build very easily, right? Because whenever I come into this Colombo, I have honestly don't. There are multiple entrances, you don't know. As an outsider, you don't really know how to navigate yourself through this. But no one thinks of that because they don't think of the person. You start with you. What do you guys do? What made you all join the session?
Side hustle.
Always wanted to have a side hustle.
More of a simple income. Right.
So business interest you or do you have a natural interest towards business or is just towards the secondary income?
It's like,
Okay, so you're exploring.
yeah.
You?
So like believe that like instead of just telling things once the past pick up the beating up
Yeah.
we should have like diversified like so having always this time to start business on thing. Yeah, like I do like creative stuff as well. So like some business involved in different side that some
Grow?
yeah must be designed. So
Let's see your base. So,
So I have some like
okay.
just on the
But you guys you from management, right? What interested you in the program? Or today's session, but something you call. You guys, there's no wrong answer. You can add. Is it the methodology or is it the whole idea of starting something new? Or the idea that yeah. Sorry, the design part. Okay. Yeah. So you looked at it from when you say design, it's UI, UX. So yeah. You're from computer, right? You guys, you're also from computer. Your new design, you are designing in your flow. Or you say they are forced. But what you what made your theory? Is it the idea part or is it the no, I'm thinking it's not. Even if you're mostly on it, I think that's not that not going like. You're curious about the idea, that's how to take an idea to market. Okay. That's the most whenever I do sessions in universities, the answer that I get is same. That's the easiest answer. If he speaks to the second guy will say same. You all don't have to leave it like that, right? You can speak to be a bit more. And it's also when it's a smaller crowd, you can ideate a bit more better because everyone can interact. Okay? So design for me is everything that you touch today from your phone, from your chair, your coffee was designed by someone for you. Right? Now, this chair you're not sitting on was designed by someone for you to sit on. That is also this. But see, there the carpenter will always think of the person sitting on the chair. But it's never the case with when you make applications, when you make businesses. We sometimes forget the person we are building it. The core person that the product or service is for, we forget. But we add all the features. All the features that the application can have, we add. We go about doing more than someone spoke about UX. For example, UI is super, functionality is in. The button is in a really good car, but the button is on the left hand side. Whatever. You take your phone, all the right handers or how many left handed? One left hand. Okay? So when you take your phone, where does your eye go? In a screen, where do you think your eye goes? Your right, right? Where is your eye? to the left. It all depends on which what you're comfortable with, right? But most of the feature designs are done with the right hand because the world has more right handers and left handers. So those insights is what we'll talk about. Right? How do you start with that insight? Whenever you are trying to build an idea or trying to build a system, start with that insight. What is the human insight behind? How many of you have gone in the metro that you metro? Have you taken? So, taken it, right? What's the biggest difference from that bus to a normal bus?
Quality of the mind. That's
Quality of the ride. If anyone who has not gone on it, what do you think?
Yeah, thank you. For the time they are coming.
So that we
For me, and also includes pain and holidays. Yes, a time.
yeah.
For me, actually, the difference is the screen of the time and the relax. You know what you get me? You can feel that there are different kind of things. Like if you trained on something or something, right?
That's it. To sum all of that is experience. The experience you get on the metro and the experience that you get on the normal bus is very big. The experience normal bus is actually minor. Something that I was experience that I spoke. But it doesn't make sense. Right? So now here you go before pleasant experience. So for that, what all of us say is pay a premium. We pay a premium, right? It's the same. How many people have Netflix? With Netflix, Spotify, with Spotify, Netflix, anything you have to pay a subscription for? You have only pay that for the ads, right? Think about experience. You don't like the disturbance. Comes back to one insight. Humans like convenience. The more convenient we are, the more satisfying. All of you have ordered for Pizza Hut. Okay? How many of you have ordered on all of them? For example, phone, website, application. Have you tried all three? Okay, go home whenever you're ordering and see. There are service levels on all three and so that is a good experience. Now, I was a huge calling person. I would call and quickly. Now I do it on the website because I don't see the difference. And for me, okay, my job requires me to talk a lot. So now I don't have to talk to one more person, I can do it now. Again, it comes down to the experience. Right? How does a person experience also? And because the medical students, another example, like we got down my lane for two doctors. And the doctor was being there about 10 years. He has one small key, fixed the entire area. Right opposite, another doctor has come and taken 2 shots and made it one patient. Same doctor, same medicine. People are flocking in the unit because we have a CT area case. Now that think about the doctor's fee, the AC that cost you 100,000. He's going to call 100,000 the way people are flocking. Now this doctor who had already caught that market for 8 years never changed that bill. It was the same old setup, same old this thing. But yet people are coming. He never thought another doctor will come in that. For being innovator, that was him not understanding his market. So he's selling speed about 1,000 total medicine. This doctor is doing this. I know for a fact in a year's time, he would have been 1,000, but he would have got the market. But the literally the only thing that is different is waiting. His waiting area is easy. So for that population there, they would rather be more comfortable, right? You are comfortable listening. So it comes down to experience. But it all starts with you. What do you, as a human, want? Is it convenience? Is it how do you look at it? And how do you kind of build something outside? Right? And that's the thing about ideas. All of you guys have ideas. How do you structure that idea is what this design methodology teaches. How do you take the next step? You draw or you are your artist? Or a design? Like 3D design or graphic? So there you're expressing yourself, right? Like you're expressing yourself who are. But like I said, since I have creative guys in the company, they will never think of how to make money because they are wired to be creative. Now, I am wired mostly as a commercial. I commercialize ideas. So when I commercialize ideas, my first thing is okay, so can an idea make money in the market or create value? That is what's important as we go through that you guys will understand to do. So for me, the 5 moves that we cover today is, like I said, starts with people. How do you understand people? And how do you empathize? And how do you look at the 5 stages of a design process? So design thinking is usually just 5 stages. How do you run through those 5 stages fast? And how do you keep iterating that process, right? And also design that wins versus dies. How many of you all have heard of Kodak? You see Kodak now. You all know the digital camera was actually a Kodak Explorer. The Kodak Empire first pitched it Ether. But at that point, Kodak had, I think, 75% or 78% of market. They were making the cameras and they were going to film. So then they said, we don't need this. We are already market leaders. And they lost it. They are not even to be heard of. If you ask someone in the 80s that, can you tell them in 2026 Kodak won't exist? Kodak doesn't have market share, they are the person thing. That's the amount of impact they have. Right? How many of you have Nokia phone? They had marketing. They had everything. They had the design, they had the display, but they had a design that was outdated. Similar like the doctor example, right? A doctor. He was the only doctor in that area for 8 years. You're telling me he couldn't have invested in the race or got a bigger space. He could have. But he did okay. Oh, why not? Yeah, no. That's the point. He lost out. Now I think he's moving to another area which is probably lost its customers, right? So that's the design that wins and dies. And then how do we go from an idea to impact? What level of an idea do you guys have? And with the AI tools that are there now, it's more easy to test an idea than it was probably 8 years ago. You can quickly test an idea. You can put it out the market and test it out. You can get feedback. And then you can keep improving. Right? So, and the last one is before we close, we just do a quick thing where we are discuss a couple of ideas. We can bounce it off, we can understand, okay, can we do this? Any idea that you have that you might have thought of? I feel everyone has great ideas. We just don't have the tools to execute. Or they're scared to execute. I still remember I started my first business when I was 15. I made money for a bit till I was 17. Then I let it go because I had started. Then I started another business and I was about maybe 84 with my business. Then I realized that's the worst thing I did because I can't hold my business. So I did do the business, then it came to a point I can't be stern with my business. So in business, you have to have a little bit of someone has to have more discipline. Those are my learnings. But did I learn from it? Yes, I put multiple products to the market. I learned from it. I made money from it. Now I'm in a point I know exactly how to, I wouldn't say my risk is zero. Any business has a risk. But I try to minimize my risk before I go. But my advice to everyone who has ideas is go to market. No one can teach you, not even me, like the market is. The market is your biggest teacher. And in your profession as well. No book can tell you how patient feels. That's something I constantly tell when I work with hospital customers. Is your empathy levels has to be the highest. From the time a patient enters the hospital, his anxiety levels are over the roof. He's scared, right? He's scared. He doesn't know what's happening. Now, when I meet doctors who are rude, it pisses me off. The patient doesn't know, which is why the patient is anxious. So those are soft skills, right? It all starts with design again. It starts with how you look at this, right? So the first one of starting with people. I don't know if you can read that. It says we design for humans who use them and humans who feel. What is that one product you all love? It can be a product, it can be food, it can be service. A product that you use every day that you just love using. Right. We use Google, but we
For me, actually, that's the way.
okay. Proper engineer. Engineer answer. Sorry. Next one. Okay, okay. That's it. Sorry. Bicycle. That's because you right. So far, I got mobile, got computer, Sona, Uber, bicycle, both mine. But 45. So, use like at product based like use it. You can make it. I don't think bicycle. What do you like? Use it. What do you love? Go to that. Like, you love, you say go to that. That means you're lost out there. You? Stop the camera. So when we say ask about people like, what do you lost? And that, by what do you use every day and that? But, you love gold. Right? Right? You love this yourself. That's what I'm saying. You guys already have a of your I have. Yes. You guys don't talk the time. Yes. So out of all the answers, we also see the amount of applications people say. The code, Spotify, YouTube music, what did you say? Coding, no? Someone said coding. So still very you guys didn't answer. No? ChatGPT. See, I was waiting for another application. What did you say? See, when I asked what your love, he was the only one who said bicycle because he loves his bicycle. Everyone else is speaking about the usage, right? Be it computing, be it, Uber, be it your phone. We are in a technological age that they are forgetting everything that we love. Now, if you ask me, my answer is sports. I love sports. I grew up playing P4 sports. I'll pick that over everything that I'm now interested in being business, innovation. But that love factor now is also turning digital. This is what I got your answer very, very unique. Excellent. That's a proper usage, right? But can you see your behavior change? Most of you all said tech stuff, right? That is because they are going into a digital economy. Everything is digital. But it starts with what they feel. Now, I know he gets really happy with that bike. If you said love, the first thing he thought about was his bicycle. So those are humans are emotional beings. How many of you all think you are rational? We like to think we are rational, right? We like to think logic. We like to think logic. We like to think, problem solvers. Yes, yeah. But something innovation that I always believe is we are fundamentally emotional. We like to do things that make us emotional. How many of you love movies? Almost everyone loves movies. That's because you see yourself in characters. You can watch a really good movie. Anyone watch Tamil movies? Tamil basically you watch, right? So why Bollywood and that industry tries a bit more than Hollywood? Is it's more emotional. They will draw emotional thing into the mix, right? The same with this. When people come buy something off you, they trust you, right? Where do you go to buy your grocery? Other than the market, everyone has Heels. Heels is a brand, right? So now you're attached to that brand. When I asked him, he said Apple is a brand. But what Steve did really well was understand how to sell meat. How many of you think there are better phones than Apple? You are a fan. No point asking. There are technological wise, there are better engineers, but there is no better brand phone like it. They got the branding. Like when you said Rexona is not the product. He said the engineering product. Technically, it's an engine. But that's a connect to the domain, right? So, what I want you to think of is whenever you think of ideas, who is the human being? What's the insight? If you look at this slide, every product, service, and app is solving a problem. What survives in the market is how big that problem is. What do you think Pick Me solve or Uber solve? Wait. The one is waiting. What do you think Uber solve? Say Uber Pick Me. What do you think they gave?
Basically, they are all people, but basically given no, it is the market.
Looks at me, right? The main thing, Pick Me changed was a human behavior. Before we used to go to the road stop, it's an illa standing, they changed that to come to you. So the demand changed. Before, when we wanted people, we go to the stand, the demand is going to the supply. Supply to look like, so they reverse that. Supply is coming to the demand. Why? Because it is more convenient. It's more convenient. And on the app, how many of you all check where your Pick Me or Uber is? After you look it, you all check, right? Why do you think that is bad? Why do you think that feature exists? Good, pretty bad. It uses anxiety. As humans, you don't like reading. If you tell them, okay, your Pick Me is going to come in 2 3 minutes. When Uber started, 75% was incorrect. The GPS location was not as advanced. But people still complain. They believe it's 5 minutes. It was actually not 5 minutes. Now it's a lot more advanced. The learning models are a lot better. But let's reduce like that. So, how do you bring those principles to the ideas that you all have to start going to explore? I like me so much. I like explaining a lot with a lot of examples. It's easier to for you all to grasp it also. And it's easier for me also to know how much you understand than me talk here. These are real. I'll talk about a bit more examples that I have worked in as well. So it'll make a lot more sense for you guys. So we are finally coming to what is design. So design thinking for me is a human-centered way of solving a problem. But you start that problem with what is the unmet need of the customer. So, for example, an unmet need, if all of us have unmet needs, right? Something that we want to get done, but it's not done. So, what is that? How many of you all order medicine? You all order medicine online on the platforms? No, right? Is that because you all don't know where to buy it? Or you all don't trust? Which two are the problems you all think you have? You don't trust to buy online.
Things like medicine, I don't see the person who's giving it.
Okay. Yep. Anyone else? Yeah. So customers go. One doesn't know where to go. He's buying online. And two is a trust factor. But this trust factor is what broke to in COVID first, right? Before people, I used to work in a bank before. No one, you say, getting financial, they want to see the manager. How, for everyone that's there now, how many people have gone to a bank in the last year? And for a specific person, reason, right? So in the 80s and the 90s, you went to the bank for withdrawals, to get to check, to cash. Now everything on the phone, right? So that is also human behavior. So that human behavior during COVID was accelerated a bit more. But it still happened. So it all started in design. We are looking at design thinking in terms of, okay, what is the problem we are trying to solve? And the second part of it, and it's very cliche, right? Never your on start business, someone like me will come and say, solve a problem. But that's not where you stop. You observe the problem. Now something that I do at IQ is for most of my clients, I'm there at the client's factory, I'm there at the client's officers to observe how operations go. Now I can't innovate a process that I don't know. So I observe. Now if I ask you how the session is, you will say it's great. But I can tell by your body language if you don't think that. That's your body saying, okay, I is lying. I'm not comfortable. I'm not listening. I'm not attending. But if you're curious and you're listening from your body language, I know how to read. So that is the second point. Watching what people actually do. They might tell you this is my problem. And as doctors, you'll see it, right? They say this is my problem, but the proper problem they only have to find it because they're not comfortable to share. But if you read the body language, you'll know it's not what they're saying. So you have to observe. And I think all are interested in business, right? So in business, something that I follow a lot is I follow the cash. Where is my cash coming from? Where is getting stuck? Where is it going? So when I do that, when I follow that, I know that I'm comfortable or not. Biggest problem I had sometimes is my clients don't pay me on because their credit periods are long. Then I stop the service. So then from this side, my cash is not going on. Because my resources are not getting used for. So then I know that problem will get solved because I've stopped the time here. Again, you're following the problem, right? That is what you need to think about. You never think about ideas. So I'm going to a lot more examples that you guys know about. So this is what I said. People are more emotional beings. Why do you think they connect with music so much? Everyone here is music, right? I did one workshop and someone said they're good. So there is probably good. Why do you think you are connected with music?
Sometimes it's about I'm also care like it's like lyrics. Sometimes I can spend but
It's a emotional health, it's connecting to your senses. It's one of your senses that's getting connected, right? It is why you follow it. How many of you have studied music? Follow? That is because music soothes your mind. You can focus. So none of that is rational. It's all emotional, right? It's all sensory based activation. Which is what you guys need to think when you come up with ideas as well. So if I go to the design thinking process, now these 5 steps is what we do for all of us. Step 1 is you empathize, right? When you say let's say I'm a doctor. Go back to those 2 examples. 2 doctors in my region, one who had a better experience than the other. The reason the second doctor put that AC is because he thought like a patient. He put himself in the patient's shoes and said, okay, if I am the patient coming into this shop, what do I need to feel? Right, just AC you feel comfortable, right? Even you feel comfortable. That was the doctor empathized. a very, very simple thought process, right? So when he was able to empathize, he was able to define. So what he would have noticed is people are sweating while waiting for the dog. So he identified the problem of people are uncomfortable. Because people are uncomfortable, what's the idea that he had? His idea is, okay, let me get a space and put an AC in it. And he first got the shop like this, he got the first small thing, which are in AC. That was his prototype. He prototyped his idea in a small space. And a small AC would have costed him about, let's say, 85 to 100,000. Then he realized it works. More people started coming. That's when he started renting the other two shops. So when the other two shops came in, he was able to test, right? He was able to test the experience. So, simple process that he followed. He put himself in that person's shoe. The customer was going to come into his premises. Then he defined the problem. The problem was they were feeling uncomfortable. They are anyway feeling uncomfortable mixing. And his environment wasn't healthy. Now, I don't know if anyone of you have gone. Our local has this, I would say VIP, but a bit more special services down Columbus. Why do you think people pay the waiting? There's no waiting. It started with, again, empathizing with the end use. You got to put yourself in their shoes to be like, what do you want? You have any questions for? Am I making sense or am I off? I think so. Now, can help you? Yeah.
Around the pricing around person. Then to enable people start businesses or are there other successful?
So, what usually happens is if you want to build, we say, a tech or even a offline business, it starts with your servicing a person. Your product or your service is always attached to another person. So when you start there, your success rate is a lot higher. If you're learning to service that human is the problem. If you ask me whether ideas that are one of that work, that also works. For example, say I create. You don't have to go through all of this. You buy it simple. You can sell coconuts. My house has 20 coconuts. I will just find a vendor to sell. But if I want to supply coconuts for, let's say, Turkey, let's say, then I have big organization. So then the problem becomes bigger. If I want to just sell coconuts, I just solve only my problem. My problem is I have coconuts, I don't sell. I will just find a buyer. That is a great business. It really depends on the type of business you want. But this methodology goes across. You can empathize always because there is always a human mind. Unless you have an agent buying from you. You can still understand what the unmet needs. Where did that question come from? Is it from another thought or?
Means like, reason like we not being able to execute stuff is there is no clear cut right or wrong
In this case, there is.
Because not like medicine or something like that.
No, so but medicine, that will give in this. Now, let's say someone comes at a day. Your job is to diagnose it. But you will only come with a head. Now, in business, you will have a supply chain problem, you will have a people problem, you will have a management problem, you will have a accounting problem. So it comes in different forms. There is no A and B to do it. But this method is the easiest way to de-risk. Say, okay, if you want to sell something, here's my target audience, here's what my target audience likes. What's the difference between a low limit and, let's say, a model? What do you think of low limit, ASP, candy? What do you think the difference is? But price tag is what it equals is the target now. So now, ASP owners I know, candy owners I know. They are very well off. But their price range is towards their target audience. Because they know that target audience will buy further. Now, for example, I know I can sell anything bicycle oriented to him. Because he loves bicycles. Now, with you, it has to be more tactical. Like, you would think of, okay, do I need the bicycle? He will buy it because he loves bicycles. For me, I will buy anything sports oriented because I love sports. That is how very good. Figure out what that person needs. Figure out what that person loves. Another example, there's a guy that I spoke with better. He sells bottles. I don't know if you have seen if you're on TikTok with a scene. He sells bottles for 500. He's on no shop even, it's on the road. He sells, I think it's about 40 to 50 pieces a day. He's supposed to bring that down to 100 feet. He has a big profit. He doesn't have some. But doesn't he have a business? Because his logic is with 500, a person will buy one bottle, buy three. Like giving 1,000 or 1,500 and taking three because it's only 500. But look, this profit is 300 into three. The small logic play. He wouldn't have sat and done empathy and all this. But he's doing it in his own way. You'd like three bottles more than one. But if I say 3 for 1,500, you are happy more than 1 is 1,000. Then you have to be 3,000. So it all starts with when you empathize. You start with the person behind your product and service, right? And I'm saying this because whenever I judge ideas and whenever I look at early stage startups, usually the engineering founder has gone through the application. He has gone through the application, he has built the product. He doesn't have a business model, nor does he have the customer. But I would have started with the business model. The business model will guide you, okay, what kind of product I need to what customer. Like you said, you make websites and things, right? Who is your customer? Is it a SME or is it someone who is doing it at home? Is it a home baker? I would start there. And then I will target only there. Now at IQ, I serve mainly for corporates and legacy. Funded startups I will take on with the ideas in. And then I take them on a lower price. But my focus is corporates and legacy. And that's where 80% of 80 to 90% of my time goes to. So when you start there, that market will start informing you, right? See, when I say empathize, it's also talk to people. That's something I don't say a lot of universities you have to specifically. You have to discuss in your hall, planning, building, and then sell it in the hall. It doesn't work here. Your customer is outside your use. Mainly, you are trying to sell in the market. That person is outside. And something that there are some also. Students have to interact with the market. Understand what the market is like. Understand the business. Understand customers. Then you come back and make. Right now, our education system is make and vaccine. Now let's just be a bit of both. When you go to the market, learn, come. And that's what is trying to set up with the incubation model as well, right? So if you look at some of the examples that I have, we spoke about Apple, right? I can share this slide with as well. You all remember the iPod? Apple's iPod. They did one simple thing. I don't know if you all remember that app that they took out. They said 1 million songs in your pocket. So before the iPod and the multimedia player, it's very CDs around. And you can't get CDs anymore. So there's one small innovation, right? He said people want more music in a smaller box. One of the reasons Apple was able to beat China in terms of engineering was design. He thought to design for product, design for brand, and design for consumer. Can you think of one of someone who is even close to Apple when it comes to design? No. Sorry? Amazon. Yeah, so Amazon also follows a lot of design things. But can you now? Who is next to Amazon? You don't. You will never know a proper design company's company because he has locked you in. He has locked you in. Now. If I ask him to between Apple and Samsung, he will argue with me throughout because you have fallen into Apple's design ecosystem. That's your answer. When you do design properly, you create a stickiness. Who is Pick Me's company? Take Google as it. To this day, Pick Me's been in the market for about, I think, close to 30 years. Pick Me doesn't have a company. And if you look at what Zulfa is doing, Zulfa is innovating vertical. You have food, you have craft, you have events. Because he knows on the right there will be competition that comes up. Kamila who has started. And that Sanka started something. It doesn't work because he has already created that stickiness. So that is what you think of. When you are creating an idea, how do you go about that idea? And these are, see, winners obsess over an unmet human thing. How many of you all have used Airbnb or Booking.com? Will you all ever let a stranger come and stay in your house? What are you doing with Airbnb and Booking.com? Will you ever let a stranger live in your car? No. If you do Big Play and Uber, you're letting a stranger in your car, right? See, human behavior, when you meet an unmet need, human behavior will evolve. That's the beauty of being human. Animals are evolved. You will rationalize and you will evolve. That is what comes like. So, now you all said Spotify. What do you all think Netflix will? Netflix made movies accessible. Before now, I remember when I was in school, we used to download from 101 sites to get the correct copy of the movie rules. So Netflix completely took out. How many y'all have seen those CD shops? Where you go and rent CDs? Yeah. I know there's one in the Vega market, there's one in Kodera, there is only a few. Like there it was every pirated movies. They gave the innovator, change the behavior. See, have you all heard of Dyson? So Dyson is a hair straightener slash dryer kind of. So, if I was you, I'll go and read up on Dyson. Dyson did complete design thinking to look at their product. They made their product smaller, so it's easy to travel. When you all go to hotel rooms have dryers, right? That's the main point they started. Why is there a dryer in hotel? That's because people can't take the one for home. Because it's so big. So they reduce the size to them. They engineer the product before. Computers is the same thing. Computers when they started was huge, right? First computer would have been the size before. They redesigned the entire thing. And they started with understanding a human problem behind. And how do you go about it? See, and I've given a lot of international experience.
So like when we are like catering to needs, we also have to be like a need that is waiting to be fulfilled. No, and we like continuously create new needs.
It's like obviously create a new need house. But it depends on which market target audience you're going. For example, a new need that I personally have is I have a need to for my car. I can drive my car and go to the washer right there, or I can wash it on my own. But I got to save time. I have a friend of mine who has started a company that it comes in a lorry to wash your car. He brings the water, he brings 2 cleaners, it's about 1,000 rupees a week. It's not a need of it's a need that company fabricated. He said, order through me, you save 1 hour of your time. It's not a basic need. He does 4 washers a day. It charges about 2,500 for a small car and 3,500 for the car. And it's making that into 4 by this listing. And it does only Colombo 1 to 30. It's not a need, right? It's not a public need. No, I need it. I can wash my car. I also can wash it. I can go to my petrol shed guy also get it washed. But now this guy has started declaring his own to me, so he'll save time. Which is fair enough. Which is true. Now that 1 hour I was actually doing some work. They came home, they were washing the car. I was able to put that 1 hour to work. That's why I wasted that 1 hour at the station. So it's a need that was fabricated on the way he sold. Nothing fancy about that. It's a car wash. That's a car wash on wheels. His capital investment was only in the lorry. He converted a small lorry to hold water. And they could. So he fabricated it. Now that for me is innovation. He was able to innovate. And he was asking Mata, do I do that? I said, for what? Most of your clientele is phone based. Automate your WhatsApp work. So if you go to him on WhatsApp now, you say, I have this car, it will give you the price detail. And it will also make the appointment. So that workflow we automate. That's where technology comes. So these are common examples, right? How many of you all know about Jeffrey Bar? Why do you think Jeffrey Bar stands for? Design, right? But his design is more visual. It's industrial. It's architectural. So for me, design is something that can go across disciplines. Be it medicine, be it architecture, industrial. Jeffrey Bauer's entire thing was around light. If you go on to most of Jeffrey Bauer's properties, there's a lot of light. He's always existing as greenery coming in. That's because of sensors. Your sensory need to look at them. So those are design principles, right? How do you look at design? What people do when they talk about design and design thinking is they mention design for either UI UX or they mention design for architecture. They never look at design to solve business problems. Well, design is also solving business problems. Right? So if you look at MAS, they do the same. And you'll ask if someone doesn't innovate, what happens? This is the market share dropped from every smartphone for Nokia. They went from 49% when they were market leaders to a 3%. When they were 49%, if you take a room of 10 people, 8 people had no phone. Now it's at a 3% because they could innovate. So these are 3 of your examples of businesses that didn't innovate. Kodak, Blockbuster, and Nokia. So keeping this here now you're going to introduce design, right? What design is. Examples of good design companies and examples of bad design. What I want to do now is ask if you all had any idea that you have been thinking about for a long time, and what have you done to move that idea forward? Or what we can discuss today to understand, okay, how to implement. Now you have understood the design process, right? How do you emphasize, how do you go about from an idea to impact? So most people start with an insight. But a lot of people start ideas without an insight. They have an idea. What do you think the difference between an insight and an idea is?
It's like as you
So an insight
Sometimes it's not like that. have not practiced. We have not. Same.
Yeah. So insight is to live the experience. For example, if you go in a normal bus, you know your insight is very frustrating during rush hour. Because it's fact. Your idea can be okay. Can I do something during that rush hour or 5 to 7? Can I think of an idea that can solve that problem? But most people do is they've already thought about that idea. They will say, okay, 5 to 7, think about an app. People can check where the bus goes. But is that really solving the problem? Visibility is not the problem. The insight that you all know is when you're going the bus from 5 to 7, it's very cramped, overcrowded. So the application should ideally know, okay, this bus A and B, bus A is at 80% of frequency, bus B is at 40. So it's your choice to go in A or B. That insight is your frustration or unmet need that you see in now. I started the business when I was 21, 22. I was doing NFC business cards. So I started that with one insight saying, whenever I go for meetings, people ask my car. Or I give my car and they give my car. So I created the NFC platform. Then we created the platform, we sold for 100 cards. But I realized after I was in the market, people bought cards from me. People are not tapping it. They had purchased the card. But they were simply not used. Then I figured the guys that I deal for university C level don't give their number. Which is why they were not tapping. They were not tapping or sharing their details. And I was here paying for my server and my application for that. For the 150 cards I sold, for a month I got 2 to 3 times. So my business model failed. Whereas I did sell 150 cards at 3,000 or 4,000, I did sell it. But it was not sustained. Because I was trying to build sustainable revenue from that. Now that is my insight for you. Okay, next card, this is the behavior itself. If I sold in Dubai, I would have made a lot more. Because Dubai, that behavior is a lot faster. This is what I'm telling you guys. Start with the behavior. Start with that insight. And then you go to frame values. How do we make money now? How do we build? How do we move forward? That will help you guys, right? And then you prototype, you validate it, and you keep constantly improving, right? So far, you all have an idea of design thinking, or is it too, what are your thoughts so far? If someone asks you, okay, what, it's been almost an hour, or 10 minutes, before I close in another 5, 10 minutes, what do you all think you all understood from listening to me, understanding the examples? What is it that you all take out?
I think people lose who are creative people. There's not my own idea of it. I'm using it.
The target, but it's the most important.
Recognizing the audience. Has business got clear for you or business got more confused? Somewhat clear. So,
But like, and this page,
yes.
think about your customer. Then check. See your behavior.
Yeah.
Then model. When my idea, your model that which I can deliver.
Yeah. So you said you are working on something.
Yeah.
You might share it or is it?
Yeah, it's like services and online.
Yeah. Now, maybe you can go take some of these principles and test out in the understand which audience will buy from you.
But the difference, now I got like idea and speak. You already like have the idea and we have made the
And we just not
speak. So, but next time they do like, maybe like see the customer detail and behave. Then we can make it. I think.
So what happens then is you're designing first, then you're building. What happens is most of the things you start building. You forget the design process. Then you say, okay, make a other level. Go backfit. So by the time you backfit, you won't create that level of stickiness that you say. For you guys, what is design? What are your understanding for? Interesting, not interesting. Yeah, like it's an every business success. Yeah. That success goes up the more you design. You don't build the product. Right? For me to summarize, right? When you build a house, you go to an architect first. You don't hire a contract. Or you don't hire the basking members. You hire someone who can go plan. It's the same logic in business. How do you create that plan and then either build up the capital? And to answer your before question, there is no. We'll say you do all this, your business still can fail. Because the market, there are other factors in the market that can affect. Now, for example, if you are shipping, what Trump is doing in US is affecting you. The iPhone here and the MacBook has gone up by about big right now. That is nothing to do with our market. It's new the global. It is a turbulence. But what design does is it helps you deal. Now, we had a client from Singapore who wanted to introduce a fintech product into our market. A bank with no branches. This is, I think, this not the goal. When we did the design exercise, we realized people in the target audience they are going to. They know the difference between credit card and debit. And these guys are trying to introduce a completely digital bank to that world. So we did the study and said, no, I don't think this behavior is still there. They say close to about $1.5 million because they did the design processes. They're going to each say come to market, get the technology here in Singapore, Vietnam, Singapore, Germany, Japan. Technology is already there. So that come here, they lost up. Because our market behavior was not there. This is about 4 years ago. Now I'm in conversation with them now to kind of bring it up. So okay, our market is a lot more advanced now. So that's what design really means, right? It means to fall in love with the problem or the incident. But most of undergrad students who they fall in love with the solution. They love that the fact that they build, which I appreciate. Yes, it's an idea that we have built, right? But it's not an idea you take as a market. But if you fall in love with the problem, that will sustain. Your solution will keep getting better. You can create new solutions. Like I said, going back to the car wash. Same problem. Different solution. But he's stuck with the problem. Now the same friend of mine also has a petrol, also has that option in his head. He just loves that, okay, it's the service I provide, how can I keep improving? And it's an easier capex investment in a lorry and 2 people. Then another petrol shed, then another facility. So he was able to do that, right? Go down. Not go down. Or go up, sorry, top. Or top again. Where you go and you can put your doctor's appointment. Not right. Again, that was there in yellow books anyway. Yellow page, I don't know if you all remember, but yellow pages anyway had all of them. But it's the same problem they were able to fall in love with, right? So when you validate it fast, it goes to market in a lot more successful way, right? See, 4 traps that sync good ideas. Like I said, a solution looking for a problem. You have built an idea. Now you're looking for a problem to solve in the market. You are backfilled, right? Designing for yourself. Now, just because I said empathize, you can't be like, what do I know? That's not how it works. Your target audience, what do they want? You put yourself in the target audience's shoe. You empathize for them. And then you take it, right? And polishing before proving. You don't have to have the perfect product. Go to market with it. Test it out in the market. Understand how it works. Then you can scale it. Now, in our technical terms, we call it MVP, or minimum viable product. Till that, can go with it. Now, when you are downloaded Spotify, you already have all these features. Now, imagine they waited till all these features are built to come and give it with. It won't work. But it's constant improvement. All of you are familiar with Carnage, right? Carnage started with one product each. Carnage and Pepper Stick both had the same method that they started. None of you are new, right? Half pay all the marketing, where you go. But if you go to a gym now, 90% is on card. We fell in love with the problem, not the solution. Problem is there is no sportswear that was easily accessible for the market. We kept building on. Those are and failing after the once the first idea is done, you're out. See the idea. Maybe that's not the best idea. Your third idea might be the best. But you are so fixed onto the solution, you can't look past it. Because you are emotional attachment to that. Now I took the business to shut the NXT business down. Because it was not making money. But it's a good solution. Solution is built, equity was good, people were buying, I had 100 customers. But I realized I can't scale this. So I was not attached to the solution. I said I made my money, close it down, we'll start something else. But I moved all my customers to another vendor. That's a down process. But you can continue with the vendor, no upfront cost, nothing to it. I spoke to the vendor, he said, everyone is happy. So that's how you evolve, right? You evolve into understanding how to improve. So this is what I asked you. How do you empathize? So when you go back home today, one exercise that you all can do is sit and observe. Observe things around your space that you can fix. In my room now, I don't want the fans. I have a friend who automated the entire thing. It started by when we were just sitting at home. He realized every time I was getting up and going, he said, Mother, I can automate it. He observed. My house is prototype. For my house, even 3 of my other friends' houses. They did for the 4th house. And I always told him, saying, my house reverse. Because he did it for me first. And my friend's house now is probably the solution a lot more mature. So your curiosity of, okay, I need a certain income, that's your rational thing. You're thinking of money, right? Of another income. Sit and observe what around me can I create value. I think you will say you love this stuff, right? Understand what kind. Is it a better? Is it a technology? Or is it a trade? You're observing. You're observing how to help. Even I think you all want to mention UI, right? So go and observe apps. Which apps of this is the UI? That will lead you all to an insight. It will lead you all to now. One of my other friends, he started a t-shirt painting. He was the student council, someone who would all the events. Stuff to this is there. We did 8 events a year. So you still work for me. He came because whenever he wanted an event, he went to 8 vendors and got 8 different quotations. The quality also was good. He told me, I can't control the quality. So he started doing himself. But I think business still doesn't expand. But look, started with observation. Right? You observe, empathize. Observe and empathize is pretty much the same. Now, what I'm telling you all to do an exercise in your go home is observe. Observe buddies. And whenever I've been in your seats as well, right? I've listened, I've gone implemented, I've learned from the market. But what I've always told myself when I listen to someone is what can I take away? What is that one thing that I learned today that I can take away and go and implement? Or go and at least try out, right? And that's what I want you guys to do as well. So, if I want you all to remember 5 lines, you can take a photo of this, you can save it. These are the 5 lines that I want you to do. Start with people. Humans first feel before they think. So, how do you make them feel? You know why everyone wants an Apple phone? Because they think if you have an Apple phone, it's a status thing. There's nothing to do with engineering. It's just how you feel, right? So start there. How do you want someone to feel? Chase the unmet need. What is that unmet need that you observe? How can I go about it? Then, so if that for that unmet need, how do I solve that problem? What is that core problem that I'm solving? And how to keep iterative? And prototype cheap. Now with AI, you can build anything fast. You can build an application fast, you can build a website fast, you can test it out. I have another company that I work with in Singapore. Before they built the product, they fake launched it in the first month. They built a website and said we are launching this in 60 days. Sign up. They had 2,000 sign-ups. And out of the 2,000 sign-ups, 200 people, that's 10, almost 10%, bought them. But they put the sign-up form when the product was not ready. But they knew 2,000 people are interested. So they were prototyping fast. So out of that 200 people, all those 200 people got a special discount for the platform because those people are their test market. So they provide feedback. Now I make these slides on this tool called Gamma. I was, it's again a product from the States. I was in their first 100 subscriptions. To this date, the founder will message, "Hi Melvin, how's your people?" They are close to they're going to about 600 million valuation now. But he's going back to his target audience. We gave a lot of feedback in that first 50 to 100. He sent us t-shirts. I was really shocked. I was like, he doesn't even know how I look. But constant feedback. Now, if he used to contact me saying, "You're from the South Asian region, I want to know more." And he used to send me. I didn't go and he sent me t-shirt and bottle, and I had to get text to get that. I said, I don't need a region and this thing. But look at the feedback. And he was able to grow the company, right? And the final thing is fall in love with what you're building. Because in business, it's very jumpy. Now, on a day-to-day basis, I have people problem, I have accounts problem, I have cash flow problem, I have vendor problem, I have legal problems, legal set of contracts, all this. I still have to love the problem that I'm solving to be able to be it. Now, entrepreneurship is glorified on social. Everyone wants to start. But the reality of starting a business is not being your own boss, being the person that everyone comes to. Everyone's problem is yours, your problem. When you're running a large enterprise. When I go back to tomorrow morning, my team is going to come to me with the problem. I can't be like, I'm tired after writing this session in the night. I'm tired. Who cares? They don't care about that. Those are the realities of it. But if you fall in love with your problem, that will drive you to drive your business. Any kind of business problem that you face, you will be able to tackling. And that's the true beauty of it. Right? So I think I've been speaking for an hour. I know it's very late after classes, work. So my Q1 is that you can scan it, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to drop your questions. I'm happy to guide you all on those. Anything more that you guys have, you can always reach out to me. Even this slide deck, I can send it out to you. Or you can reach out to me. The beauty of any idea, it doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be a Facebook. It doesn't have to be an Apple. It doesn't have to be a company. It can be as simple as that doctor opening up a clinic with a different experience. It can be simple as the washing machine, the washing guy starting a lorry business. It can be simple as your art being sold when it has small groups of exclusive sales. All of that is in innovation always starts with inside. It doesn't have to be grand. The mistake that I see a lot of university bodies make is they only promote the big event. The ones that can get PR, the ones that you can do to the university board, but that's not the only thing. You can start a business if you have a theory. Good, but I would say not even a good idea if you have a good insight. If you have a good insight, anyone can start. And innovation is something that I believe very deeply because I was sharing with because when I started innovation, I didn't have people like me coming in talk when I was there. No one spoke to me about. It was a very early, Sri Lanka is in a very early stage of looking at innovation. So most of my exposure was always the point market. What I want to do now in our local market is initiatives like doctors we support that so more people come in. More people understand you have an idea, you can take it. You don't have to be a business professional. You don't have to be an engineer. Some of the biggest business people that I make better don't even have it. But they understand the core thing of creating value in them. So if you have your insight, which you can build an idea on. And that idea always has to create value in your market, which will make money. Not I need enough money and then count this. When you go this way, the money is anywhere there. Your destination is money. Because the value is big. Right? So that's what I have for you guys today. I would summarize one word is design is you. Design always starts with the human behind you. So think of observe what's around you, then start empathizing for your target audience, then build your idea, and the money will come. Yeah? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Any questions? I know you're very tired. Questions? Think your light, dislike, not clear. All of you okay? Yeah.
I can you reflect to observe of the so you have to design of the target market and observe the of where
No, initially you can observe across. Now, for example, the metro crowd. Right? You will notice the crowd that goes to the metro is not the crowd that goes to the normal. Observe why that is. Then you will okay, for this target audience, this ones. For this target audience, this ones. But your problem is transportation. How do you make transportation better? So from there, keep good. Don't restrict it. It's like medicine. You will learn medicine. First, you would learn about the anatomy. Then you would only learn about the drugs in the second or third year. I did what you did to teach you back first. But it doesn't make sense. If you know the core body, what you use to cure it is secondary. So the core body for you should be observing many problems. And then decide okay, this problem is worth making money. Or you're passionate about. If you start with yourself and the problems you have, then you will meet more people like who are from the same socio-economic background, who have the same philosophy, or who has the same level of income. Then you target them. Those people become a target person. So usually you go from you as a person, you're a person, right? So persona, to target audience. Target audience is a group audience. So that person, multiple people are the same person. Then you are scaling your problem, right? Or you're scaling your ends. And you go from there. And I would say start with something that people really love, that it's the annoyance.
So then how do you start with this? Should you like target a community online, try to like optimize or make better the product or service that's already existing? So that's like the better like no unmet needs still exist, like why is every
Yeah, every human has an unmet need. Because humans will never be satisfied. Us as human being, even if you give a billionaire another billion, he will be unsatisfied because he's looking at the billion. So unmet needs will always be there. If you can improve a service, that is also there. That's a good big vision. We didn't reinvent the entire thing. He bought even the platform, he bought it from another market. He bought it and made it free now. So that is improved. But I honestly to Vijay's right, he bought it in and tested. He did just go on Google's experience, right? So it's both things. But I would say look for both unmet needs and stuff that are already there that you can improve. Look at shoes. Shoes is always there. But every time you hear a new shoe brand come, Virat Kohli launches a new shoe brand. Someone can be like, but it's generating this brand. No? Any more questions? No? Right? Be able to observe it. So what I would normally, when I talk about observation, which is like you say is for us. So how you observe is going towards something that you already like. Need to look, need to look, need watchers. Go and observe that market. How does it move like? Basically. So you start with something that you really resonate. That way your observation becomes better. For example, I like work. So I would always like go to mall, like go somewhere, I would go into a workshop. I want to know okay, how much markup will be, how much. That is your, don't call it. Another thing that I want to emphasize before I close is a lot of people think this is market stuff. It's not. It's not a research market stuff. Observation and emphasizing is you living. If you like watches, go into a workshop. Understand it. These are the 8 brands that you understanding maybe these 8 brands, these are the type of people that are buying. If you spend 2-3 minutes, that but no one thinks it. How do you think the Chool Park started this? Chool Park the big. Even the lazy go to take that's why they started because again, a cost of setting up a Chool Park is cheaper than setting up another bakery. So one bakery 5 Chool Parks. More profit. Again, observation. That is that business owner observing to operate an unbakery struggles. You all know Piransons across the island delivers from one place. PNS is a logistics company. Every item made comes from one central place. Different locations. That's why the freshness is always there in the monster. You buy from Kalamati or Kalapode. A freshness of a fish plant in the PNS will always be there in the morning. Next time you'll go, look at it. In the morning and in the evening, there'll be a lorry that's parked in front, and there'll be a from the lorry. It's not from no location. So those are observations. The more you observe, the better your solution becomes. The problem is humans now are distracted. How many of you look out of the window when you are going in your car? You look in your phone, right? So reduce distraction and observe a lot more. And then you can come into programs like what Professor has and go into, building, okay, I have an idea like this. How can I move it forward? But your idea is already strong. It's just not a random idea that you have. Yeah? Any more questions? No. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your I hope you all got new perspective. The main reason I do this is to leave you guys with new ways of thinking. It might not make sense completely, but you can follow me. I post a lot on design, understanding how design goes, and not material how it can utilize. And I'm hoping to work closely with Dr. calls with the program that he's setting up and bringing a lot more marketing insights. You'll notice I spoke with a lot of examples because now I want you to go and see these examples in the market. Look at the same thing you looked at before. You all will relook. You all will relook at, okay, this is what this business is. This is how it goes. And that's the true purpose of design.